Hi there. As promised, putting a video up on some of the telephones again. Some of these I have shown in the past, and what I've done, as you can see, arranged the 706 types. I say types, there's 706 clones here as well. The handset I've laid the other way down. That way you can get more in a given space. And the 746s, which I've still a bit of space there to add those two. So it's all taking time. Here, as I say, the 706 type, when I say the type, was the type brought out in the late 50s, 60s, virtually the time I started working for BT, or the GPO as it was called in those days. And I remember these phones coming out and everyone wanted them, and they wanted to change whatever phone they had previous, which is the 332s, which are worth a bit of money now, or the Candlestick. Anyhow, here, as I say, it's only going to be a fairly not too long little talk. You've got phones from various other places, GPO, yes, telephone rentals, Siemens, you name it, probably got it. If I can find it then. I'll move stuff about. And also this type of phone, well, the one here, which is a Pi phone by Pi. The other ones on the is there on the bedside table. That's the other Pi phone. They're beautifully made, actually. The dial is the German-made dial, which is based on the Siemens patent. I always tell these by the way they're fixed at the back there with the two screws. Anyhow, right there, I can show you what the stuff that's underneath. This is all in sorting out mode, if you could say. So that's why it's in such a bit of a glorious mess. Just realised how exactly what I have got, what I haven't got. There's some American wall phones. I understand the wall phone was also used in Southern Ireland. I know they use the 500 type. So eventually I want to get this displayed in a much better fashion. I know they look as if they're on top of one another, which they are, but there's no harm coming to them. It's just I've had to make a bit of space. I'm going to move a lot of the 746 types up on to the table. If I've got the space, which I probably haven't. So that's the ones under there. Getting back to the 706s, 706s were used also, not under that number, but certainly that type, in places like Israel. They have you see them on eBay. Blimey, that's our 706s. They, I think, were made by an Israeli company, and they were made in the 706, 746 shapes. They looked identical. Inside the circuitry is variants, they're not exactly the same. I'm trying to see if where I put it. I've moved this stuff up about, and I'm blowed if I can find where I put it. Is it that one there? Oh, there, that one there, with their that type of logo on the dial. So as you can see, this is a phone from Israel. The other places they came from was Portugal. Now the phones from Portugal, I believe, were made by Plessey in Portugal, because Plessey had a company or a factory in Portugal. And recently I picked another 706 type from Malta, and that looked like it had been made by Pi to exactly the same pattern as the Portuguese phone. As I say, got a little bit at the end there, a few odds and ends. It's an old KTAS. Yes, he's come to see what I'm doing. In the back, as I say, it's difficult to photograph up close a lot of these, but there's so many I don't realise how many I've got. That nice red one's from Hungary. Nice wall-mounted phone, a wooden box with the normal receiver. I think that's called a 700 type Erica phone. One from Italy. A name there as well. Yeah, excuse the mess. It's a mess. There's a few more phones in the cupboard here. These are also got to be sorted out. I'd like to be able to display these, but I'm afraid the house is not big enough to do that, which is a great pity. I feel all our houses are so small, but I don't know, grateful for more than. There we've got HEMAF. That is from Holland. I bought that some years ago at the vintage radio exhibition held near Coventry. I wanted to go this year and realised I just missed it by a couple of weeks, so I've got to wait till next year to go. But that is a very, very good show. They do old radios, old telephones, normally plenty of them as well. But as I say, I didn't go this year, I got it all wrong. But that's where that one came from. Got that at a reasonable price. And while talking about prices, some of the prices now you see are quite ridiculous. And I'm very grateful I bought a lot of these at the right time. I didn't pay big money for them. Now if I'd replace them I probably would have to pay a bit. Here we've got a lovely white 332. Well, it looks like a 332. You turn it over and it's actually one of the Indian phones. It's got the number and everything. I just realised that's not the one I'm thinking it was. I have got one of these which... No, this is the Indian one. But I have got another one elsewhere that was made at the changeover when it was from ATE, but with the Indian name on it. It's got me worried now because of what have I done with it? This is the thing, you get these things, and I don't think it's that one there. I know I've got there's one there as well. Yeah, it's got me thinking. Anyhow, these were things which I picked up years ago, not necessarily from boot sales, but off of eBay and that. But as I said before, the prices in some cases have gone silly. The silly prices. So, you know, obviously, well, as I say, you just, you know, if you want these things, you either have to pay silly price or pass them by. Anyway, I'm going to go into the other room. Here we are in another room. Once again, excuse the mess. I live on my own and obviously not of the most tidy. Here we've got a couple of the Autophones. The black one there and the cream coloured one. Both these have got dodgy induction coils. The induction coils have shorted out, so you've got contact between the individual windings, and this appears to be a common fault. But I have got one downstairs which is working beautifully. So much stuff. Some of these things I don't quite realise I've got. That dial sticks. Trying to think what one that is. Yeah. Well, I say I'll have to do. This is just a virtually a tour of the phones. It's not showing them stripped down or taken apart or take the covers off. But this one we're looking at now is certainly one that should have a little look inside. It looks very much like a 332, but it's not. I'm trying to think what it says on there. Yeah, can't make it out. But the dial's a little bit sticking. And moving across, we've got another display. So much stuff, it's unbelievable. Old American phone there. This was before the 500 type. That silver one there is French. The one next door to it's French. Another KTAS type. Got the other wall phone there. The one we're looking at now is actually a bit of a marriage. I picked that at the boot sale in Wimbledon years ago, but it is a marriage made in America by a company which the name has slipped me, but it's made up of different bits. It's unusual, but it just shows you what they do. There's a few things inside which give the game away. The ringer for a start, and of course the dial is a Kellogg dial. Here we've got a nice 500 type, some candlesticks. Now, my original candlestick I bought in the 60s when I met another collector who sadly is no longer with us. He was murdered. His wife had him murdered. That was Mike Joannou. He was the landlord of a pub in Epsom. That was many years ago. I still wonder where his vast collection went to, because he had some stuff. And when I say stuff, museum piece type stuff. And I bought, as I say, I bought one of the candlesticks off him. I think it was that one there. The old candlestick. Just seeing. I'm trying to find that that other one. It might be that phone I looked at previously. Unfortunately, getting older, the old brain tends to get a bit addled and doesn't always work. Also there, we've got a very early phone with an American one, with the typical handset. I used to see these in American films when I was a bit younger, well, quite a bit younger, and always wanted one of those. And one turned up with the bell box, and that works perfectly. In it, included, was a valve, and it appeared that this would have been used for shared service work. But it's, as I say, it's now would work as a straight line with that lovely shaped handset and the round base. They did make an oval shaped base as well, but this is the round one. A few Belgian telephones, commonly called kettle phones. I suppose they're shaped like a kettle in some way. These ones in the front were earlier, they didn't have the carrying handle. What else have we got? There's so many odds and ends. An old heater there, that works. Various plugs and sockets. And that's not going up into the loft. A load of stuff up there as well. You can see that one there, just looking at things, and there's an American candlestick there with the Mercedes dial. They call it a Mercedes dial because it had that sort of like the logo of the Mercedes car. That's a close-up of that round base phone. It's American. Another American one there. This is one of the Ericsson's wall phones with the Ericsson handset, which is based, well, the same shape as the American handsets. Anyhow, let's go across to the other room. I'll block that up, can't see. Oh, hold on. Yeah, there's a few more phones. Some modern Indian phones. They were more or less similar to the 706s. behind the clock, what have we got? Oh, that's from Switzerland. My name slipped me. That's the thing, is my memory is going a bit on certain things. But Iskra made the same version, exactly the same. There's nice, that one I got many years ago. It's a nice colour as well. It's a nice purple. From the boot sale at Wimbledon. How I missed that boot sale. They decided to build flats where the boot sale was. Great pity. I really enjoyed that. There's a few Erica phones. An Eiger. Japanese version there of, I don't know what you would call it, but it's one. And this one there in the front, which doesn't work, Telia Cobra. Yeah, Telia Cobra. It's a pity, but it doesn't work. Some others along here. This one I remember well. On my first ever trip to Germany, and that's going back a few years, these were very popular in offices. And I can remember, I don't know what town I was in, but I was obviously in Germany, sheltering from the rain. It was pouring with rain, and looking through the window into an office, and they had this type of phone, Siemens. And they at that time were quite popular. Now I understand they're fairly rare. Also, if you're lucky enough to get one, and I haven't got one, they also had this same shape with the barrel type of dial, where the dial would be in 2 rows and you'd press it down to operate it, and in fact turn the normal dial or a similar dial movement inside. And they are quite rare. I've seen them in eBay. I daren't ask the price or even look at the price. They weren't cheap. Here we got automatic electric. What they call this one? I can never think of the name. This thing gets me. This is quite an early one. The dial used to light up. When I say used to, it had it was electrically operated, and it would just glow. And of course these were made to be plugged into the sockets, but this one no longer works on that. It's, I suppose in a way, it's similar to our trim phone. It's got like a limited life. But they're nice phones. There's several versions of these made through other countries. And you've got the other Belgian phones there. So yes, quite a few. And I believe there's a couple in these cupboards, but I won't undo it because it's a hell of a job to move stuff. Let's go into the other room, the bulb room. There's a few bulbs in here as well. They're in these cases. There's some more of the time. I won't get them all down. I don't know if you can see them okay. Let's turn the light on. That shows up what is on up there. The one at the end there is the old, I call the horseshoe type phone. They were talking about these yesterday on Andy's Shed. Oh, and hello to anyone who is looking at these videos. The Andy's Shed's always very good. It brings up some interesting things at the radio station, which unfortunately I know nothing about, but they're quite interested. And yeah, to mention that, and it was mentioning these horseshoe phones. Horseshoe is the shape of the shape where the dial goes in. It's like a horseshoe. They're made by Siemens AEI. Of course, Siemens were well known in telephones. There's a couple of German phones there. Some old lamps. Where do I start and where do I stop? They're everywhere. Another 500 there. A similar one to the 500, but not exactly the same. I think that one at the end there is what they call a Lucy phone. You remember a programme on TV used to be I Love Lucy, and that was the phone that was often shown on that programme, I Love Lucy, though they become known as the Lucy phone in America. There's a few more underneath here. Now that I say, you very rarely can pick these up. I think people realise they're worth a bit of money, or they think they're worth a lot of money, and they go and buy them, and it pushes the price up. There's another Portuguese phone there. Well, they were used in Portugal. They're actually made by ATE over here, but they were the round base phone, and they were used in Portugal. Christian Kirks, this one's made by Christian Kirks. I've got another Ericsson type phone. The one at the end there can be used as a hanging wall phone or just a desk phone. I think the dial can be turned around so that it can be used in two orientations. Back there, got more. That grey one I think's Mexican. I think that one's Stromberg Carlson. Underneath you've got a very early Siemens Halske phone. Next, that's quite an old one. You've got a couple of French phones. French phones tend to use the automatic type dial, where the finger stop is spaced from the 0, 0. And the one at the back there. You've got some up here. Some more phones. I won't get down. Covered in dust, antique dust. The Japanese one there, that blue one's Japanese. And the one at the end is the same model Well, it looks the same model as one we saw yesterday on a phone box from Kreitz. There were some photos that had been showed to us on Andy's shed, and one of the phones that was shown was definitely one of these. You can see the little vent holes at the side. Well, that was from the Hong Kong company, the name up there, Hong Kong company. And a few vintage lamps as well. A few lamps, more than a few. More than a few. Nice lot of neons. And this one here. Oh, that's not the one. It's a lovely blue. It's a carbon filament. Neon lamps. This is the 5-watt neon. You see these on eBay. You almost need a mortgage to get them. Prices have gone stupid. Absolutely stupid. There's an early one. Neon there with a pip top. That's how they evacuated them and put the neon gas in by a little pip at the top. This is a genuine Osglim. Got one of the ones with the cross. That's quite an early one. Also, this style of 5-watt neon with a beehive shape has been replaced by 2 flat pieces of metal together, and they are the electrodes and they glow red. Yeah, this one's by Siemens. Got the name at the top there. This was from Siemens Brothers, who they made numerous lamps, telephones over here in England. Another neon there by Osram, and that is the German Osram, the company set up by Siemens in Germany. The glass could do with a bit of a clean. But there we are there. Very interesting. Wherever you look, bulbs. Talk about American phones. It's an American lamp. Another American lamp by Philips. At least I think it is. I'll tell a lie. It's actually Canada. That is North America, Canada. Things go back many years. Coloured lamps by Westinghouse, another American name. Anyhow, I could talk all day and all night. I'm not going to. And just a quickie on the phones with a little bit on the lamps. Interesting though, because I could talk about trams. My first ever YouTube was of the tram system in Lisbon. Well, I visited their little museum there, and that was very interesting. I took a lot of videos. I think the videos is still there somewhere in there, but it was the first one I ever did. And I was always interested in the trams and that, I suppose, from childhood days. I can remember riding the trams from Wimbledon. They went through Tooting Broadway. At Tooting Broadway, the overhead ended and the plough system was used. This was an underground way of picking the current up, and you had like a slot down the middle of the road, and that's what the trams were like in London. But they were short-lived as far as I'm concerned, because it was after the wartime a lot of these trams were being removed. A great pity, really. I've always wanted to see them come back. Of course, now they've come back under the trams we see now, which are nothing like what they were in the old days. But in Lisbon and Porto,